Some actors helped define iconic roles, only to disappear when the sequel arrived. Behind the scenes, unexpected decisions, conflicts, and timing issues led to surprising recasts. Here are the real reasons some familiar faces didn't make it back for the sequel. Edward Norton played the Hulk once, and then Marvel quietly replaced him before the Avengers ever assembled. Edward Norton starred as Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk, one of the earliest films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But when the character joined the larger MCU in The Avengers, Mark Ruffalo appeared in the role instead. The situation reportedly came down to creative differences. Norton had worked as an uncredited writer on the film and supported a much longer cut of about 135 minutes with director Louis Leterrier. The studio chose a shorter 112-minute version instead. According to Marvel Studios, the decision to move forward with another actor came from the need for someone who matched the collaborative spirit of the rest of the cast. Bill Murray brought one of the most memorable performances to the first Charlie's Angels reboot and then suddenly vanished from the sequel. Bill Murray played Bosley, the Angels' desk-bound handler, in the 2000 film directed by Emmett G, alongside Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu. But when the franchise returned with Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, Murray was gone. The role didn't disappear, it was simply recast, with Bernie Mac appearing as the adopted brother of the previous Bosley. Behind the scenes, the reason wasn't part of the storyline. Murray and director McGee reportedly clashed during the making of the first film, and the tension between them became the explanation for why Bosley looked very different in the sequel. Alec Baldwin launched the Jack Ryan franchise, but when the sequel arrived, someone else was suddenly playing the role. Alec Baldwin starred as CIA analyst Jack Ryan in The Hunt for Red October, a performance that helped elevate his career. With Tom Clancy continuing to write stories about the character, it seemed likely Baldwin would return for more films. Instead, when Patriot Games was released, Harrison Ford appeared as Jack Ryan. Baldwin later wrote that the change happened because Paramount Studios needed to settle a financial obligation with another major movie star after a previous deal fell apart. According to Baldwin, that decision pushed him out of the sequel, and the role moved forward with Ford instead. Rooney Mara helped turn The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo into a hit, but when the sequel arrived, she and Daniel Craig were both gone. Rooney Mara starred as hacker Lisbeth Salander alongside Daniel Craig in the 2011 American adaptation of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. The film earned positive reviews, made over $230 million worldwide, and even brought Mara an Oscar nomination. So when the follow-up The Girl in the Spider's Web moved forward, many expected both actors to return. Instead, the new director, Fede Alvarez, chose a completely different cast. Claire Foy stepped in as Lisbeth Salander, while Sverrir Gudnason replaced Craig's character, reshaping the sequel with new leads. Crispin Glover delivered one of the most unforgettable performances in Back to the Future. But when the sequels arrived, George McFly suddenly looked different. Crispin Glover played Marty McFly's awkward father in the original film, a role that became one of the movie's most memorable characters. Yet when Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 were released, Glover was nowhere to be seen. Instead, another actor portrayed George McFly. According to Glover, part of the conflict came from his concerns about the message of the first film's ending, which he believed suggested that money equals happiness. Glover also said the salary offered for the sequels was far lower than what he believed was fair. Olivia Munn's Psylocke made a big impression in X-Men: Apocalypse, so fans expected to see her again in the next film. Olivia Munn played the mutant Psylocke in X-Men: Apocalypse, and many assumed she would return for the final Fox installment, Dark Phoenix. Munn had even said ahead of time that the film would be a two-part story and that her character would appear. But when the movie was released, Psylocke was nowhere to be seen. The real reason came down to scheduling. During the production of Dark Phoenix, Munn was already filming The Predator, making it impossible for her to appear in both projects at the same time. Rachelle Lefevre expected her role in Twilight to grow in the next film, but the sequel arrived with a completely different actress. Rachelle Lefevre played the vampire Victoria in the first two Twilight films, and the character was expected to have a much larger role in the Twilight saga, Eclipse. Instead, Bryce Dallas Howard appeared in the role. Lefevre later said she was stunned by the change. According to her, the studio made the decision because she accepted another movie that overlapped with the Eclipse shooting schedule by about 10 days. Lefevre said she remained fully committed to playing Victoria and believed the short scheduling overlap should not have caused a problem. Judith Hoag helped introduce April O'Neil to movie audiences. But when the Ninja Turtles returned for the sequel, she was suddenly gone. Judith Hoag played the reporter April O'Neil in the 1990 film Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, taking the role even though she didn't initially know what the story was about. She balanced the part while also working on another movie at the same time. But when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Secret of the Ooze went into production, Hoag wasn't invited back. Hoag later explained that she had complained to producers about the demanding 6-day shooting schedule and the film's heavy violence, and believed those concerns led the production to move on and cast Paige Turco instead. Terrence Howard helped launch Iron Man, but when the sequel arrived, his character suddenly had a completely different face. Terrence Howard played James Rhodey Rhodes, Tony Stark's close friend, in the first Iron Man film alongside Robert Downey Jr. But when Iron Man 2 hit theaters, Rhodey was no longer played by Howard. Don Cheadle stepped into the role instead. According to Howard, the change came down to money. He explained that he was originally offered $8 million to return for the sequel, but the deal later changed and the studio arranged to pay him only $1 million. The role moved forward without him, and Cheadle continued playing Rhodey across the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Billy D. Williams seemed destined to become one of Batman's most famous villains, but the sequel had other plans. Billy D. Williams appeared as Gotham District Attorney Harvey Dent in Tim Burton's Batman, leading many fans to expect he would eventually transform into the villain Two-Face in later films. But when Batman Forever arrived years later, the role had changed completely. Director Joel Schumacher, who took over the franchise, chose a different path and cast Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face instead. Williams never played the villain in live action, even though his earlier appearance had set up the possibility of that transformation within the series. One X-Men character quietly changed actors, and many viewers barely noticed. Bill Duke originally played Bolivar Trask in X-Men: The Last Stand, appearing as the head of Trask Industries connected to the Sentinel program. But when the character returned years later in X-Men: Days of Future Past, the role looked completely different. Instead of Duke, the film cast Peter Dinklage as Trask. The change wasn't explained in the story. Director Bryan Singer simply chose a new actor because he was a big fan of Dinklage and wanted him for the part. The recast created an unusual continuity moment where the same character appeared in the franchise with two entirely different faces. One small Harry Potter character quietly changed faces, and most fans barely noticed. Elizabeth Spriggs played the portrait known as the Fat Lady, the guardian of the Gryffindor Common Room entrance in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. But when the character appeared again in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Spriggs was gone. The role had been recast with Dawn French instead. The change came after director Alfonso Cuarón took over the franchise for the third film and decided to cast the more boisterous British comedian in the role. As a result, the familiar portrait protecting Gryffindor suddenly had a very different personality and a completely different actress.